right, so thank you everyone for joining this call tonight. This is the last call for 2016. In January, we will pick right back up. The next call will be January 17th. It will also be at 5 Mountain Standard Time. So for those of you that don't know me, I am Jice, and I'll have some new developments that I'll be sharing in 2017. So you definitely don't want to miss that call. But again, if you are not familiar with me, I do productivity coaching or business coaching with a focus on productivity. And the purpose of these calls are to give business owners some advanced information that hopefully can help grow their business. These are advanced calls. They're really meant to kind of dig in a little deeper and give you some real information, not just a gloss over. And so I always want to throw that out there, really from some feedback I got a few calls ago where someone felt like I gave too much information. So I just want to let people know, this is really for business owners trying to grow and who are really wanting to dig in deep to their business. And so we're here to tackle some issues that entrepreneurs experience. And these topics basically come from you, the entrepreneur. And so if there is a topic that you would like for me to cover, let me know. And then I can always point you to some of the previous topics that I've covered if you have not joined the call before and wanted to hear some of the previous calls. I do have them up on YouTube and available for replay. So take notes, but if you are driving, please don't take notes. There will be a replay. And tonight's call is on planning, from planning to execution. And so we're going to talk about 5 secrets to execution. And why is that even an important topic to discuss? I'm not sure if you know this, but around 70 to 80% of businesses and employees that work for companies report that execution is often poorly done. And so in 2017, we want to make sure that we have some tools in our tool belt, some thoughts, some things to marinate on that will help us make some actionable steps to keep you and your business out of that 70 to 80% of businesses that have an excellent plan, an excellent strategy, but poor implementation and poor execution. Because I know that we all have kind of been here before, like you feel like you are in this endless cycle of planning. You feel good about your plans, then you sleep on it, you feel not so good, you want to go back, you want to revamp them again for the 7th time. It just kind of keeps going. And oftentimes what we find, we'll look several years down the line and see that a lot of the plans that we thought of that were really good plans, if they weren't executed or were poorly executed, then it really doesn't matter how great the plan ever was. So why is it difficult to execute our plans? I think that there are several reasons. I believe that there's a fear of success that stops us from actually moving the needle forward. And I talked about that fear of success in my mindset call back in May. So again, if you jump on my YouTube channel, you can go back and see some of those calls. But I talked about the fear of success that stops us from moving. A lot of times we think about fear of failure, and that is a real fear, but we do also have fear of success. So I just want to throw that out there. And then, of course, it can be difficult to execute due to fear of failure or a lack of belief. We can have a lack of belief in our skills or our abilities to actually do what we say we're going to do or say that we want to do. We can have a lack of a belief in our confidence, our lack of information, not really sure if our plan is good. I don't know if you've run into that situation yourself, or if you've seen other people who want to run their plan by 20 different people. I've been there before where I just don't feel confident about my plan. Like while I'm writing, I feel really good. And then when it's time for me to move, I'm like, well, let me just ask this person. Or, well, I really value this person's opinion. Let me go and talk to them too. And then we can get to a place where we're not moving because we're so caught up in this fear that maybe it's just not quite good enough. And so these feelings are usually based on our patterns and our history of either a lack of execution in the first place or our track record of poor execution. So if you've been a person who's a big doer and you've not done well when you do, you can lose confidence in your ability to move forward. And if you've also been a person who over the last several years has never really gotten your plans and your goals to come to fruition, you can also have that fear because you've never really pulled the trigger and now you're kind of afraid to pull the trigger. So I think one of the other reasons why we find it difficult to execute is also that our strategy oftentimes requires us to change. And let's just be honest, change across the board is oftentimes difficult, and we naturally resist change. That's a natural inclination. And so when we're looking to take our business up a notch or take our business up to another level, that is going to require us to make some changes. And because of our natural resistance to that, sometimes it can really make it difficult to actually execute our plans. There was an article on entrepreneur.com that stated very eloquently, it said, many entrepreneurs allow themselves to become swept up in putting out fires instead of executing their plans. Most entrepreneurs fail at execution due to a lack of a framework or methodology in place that is repeatable. So basically, one of the reasons that we find it difficult to execute is because we have no systems, because we are putting out fires instead of executing our plans. So how do we move from that planning stage into the execution stage? And I want you to think about execution like this. Execution is ultimately the result of thousands of decisions made every day. Your execution comes down to the little things that you do from the time you get up in the morning until you go to bed that night. What did you do first thing in the morning? What did you do before lunch? What did you do throughout your day when you should be executing your plan? Are you checking email? Are you on social media? Are you running errands? Are you not able to tell someone no so that you can focus on executing your strategy? So I'm going to jump right into the 5 secrets, we'll call them secrets, to execution. I want to kind of jump back to that quote that I mentioned. Especially in smaller businesses, we are often putting out fires versus working on our strategy or working on our business. And this ties directly into my first point. It ties into time wasters and focus and proper delegation of our time being served in the best manner possible. Not finding the right people or the best time or having any system set up to maximize our use of time as a business owner is detrimental to our business. It doesn't allow for us to be able to use our time in the place that is needed most as the business owner, because oftentimes we're running the business instead of building the business. So secret number 1 to execution: set clear priorities. You really have to make sure that your priorities are clearly stated. Now, here's what's interesting. Usually in our plan, we have our priorities stated. Again, this comes down to the execution of that plan where we find ourselves getting off track, or we are creating too many priorities at once, and not having the right priorities in place will derail your efforts every time. So we have to establish one priority and identify the activities that support that priority and make that happen before we move on. You cannot focus on 5 or 10 different priorities at a time. I think I have a video that talks a little bit about multitasking, but essentially we cannot really multitask. As many people think that they're great at it, you're not. You're horrible at it. Just stop. Don't do it. So when it comes to our business, that's still true there. We cannot focus on too many priorities at once. It's almost like trying to juggle. You'll be juggling all these balls or all these priorities, and the next thing you know, one is going to fall. They're all going to fall. You'll get flustered, and every ball is falling, right? So you have to take the time to focus on one priority, and your strategy or your plan should lay out for you what that first priority should be. And it should be, you should know what your first priority is, your second priority, third, and so on and so forth. And identifying what those activities are that support that priority is key, because that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to help you make that priority happen. So if your plan is to open up a new office in a new state, you have to focus on location, hiring personnel. Maybe you have to focus on the construction. But all of those activities are to get that new location up and running. So you have one priority, which was to expand your market into a new location, and all the surrounding activities that are going to help support that one priority. So this is really going to help you hone in your focus. Like 80% of your day and your actions should be dedicated to working on the current priority that was pulled and determined by your plan. 80% of that. Save your 20% to handle all the rest of that other stuff. But 80% of your day should be focused in on the actions that you need to be doing to move that first priority forward and get it to completion. In addition, you have to know who you are. You have to be able to stick to your identity, create and stick to your identity. And I think that's very important when we're also talking about priorities, because oftentimes when other opportunities come up, we think they're really good opportunities and we try and grab for them. But if they don't fall in line with who we are and who we're saying that we want to be, if we're not sticking to our value proposition in our business, then we end up becoming scattered and unfocused. So part of that focus is having a very clear idea of who you are, what your business is designed to be, and who your business is designed to support. Don't try to be everything to everyone. And then with that very clear vision and your top priority, you can take that and you can begin to focus in on that priority and making that happen. The second secret is to assign responsibility. If you are a one man or one woman shop, you might be thinking, I am all the responsibility. All the responsibility falls on me. But you'd be wrong. You need to find the right people to help build your team to free you up to grow your business. That might be a family member who helps you with social media. That might be your accountant. You might be able to find a virtual assistant. That might be your web or graphic design team, or whatever the case might be. But there's no real way for you to be able to do all of the pieces in your business and your business continue to grow, because that's when, again, you come back into working in your business and not on your business. So if that is you, if you're a one man, one woman shop, you still have to find the right people and the right team that's going to help you to move your business forward. Now, if you are a business that has a partner or that has employees, this means that everyone needs to know what portion of the plan they're responsible to execute. And that responsibility needs to come with some accountability. And then they also need to know that they're going to be held accountable for their part of the plan, their part of making sure that the plan is executed. Part of this goes into not second guessing each and every decision. And I kind of hinted on this a little earlier when I was saying about, going around and talking to everybody about your plan to see if you think it's a good plan. Well, that goes back to, asking everyone about a decision. If you have your decision-making ability spread out, you need to empower people in those positions to make those decisions. If your decision-making power is more centralized, you still have to make those decisions and stand on them. Not to say that it's not important to have input, but after you get some input and making a final decision, whoever is responsible for making the final decision and delegating out responsibility for that task to be completed, or that portion of the plan to be completed, that needs to not be second guessed. When this happens, it's really hard to hold any one person accountable. If you have 10 people who have all come together to make one decision, who ends up being accountable for that one decision? Who's accountable for the outcomes? So figuring out your decision-making process within your accountability scope will really help to make sure that when decisions are made, they're made, they're not second guessed, and the people that are responsible for those decisions and for those outcomes are then held to an accountability standard. Everyone has to know their part. That's kind of the idea of buy-in, especially if you're a company that has employees. especially a small company that has employees, it's really hard to create change without having that buy-in. But to have that buy-in, everyone has to know their part and has to feel some type of ownership over that part. And they need to know that they're going to be held accountable. So you make sure that you are checking in with your team often to address issues immediately and then be able to adjust. Because having that decision be a sound decision doesn't mean that it can't be adjusted if you find that something is not working. What you can't do is stall on action by second guessing the decision over and over again. So I hope that makes sense. So moving on to number 3, the third secret is build your competence. Oftentimes when we are looking to take our organization to the next level, we are intimidated. And that's understandable. We're really talking about stepping it up a notch, right? And so if you're out here giving it the best you got every day and you want to step it up a notch, you might be intimidated and ask yourself, can I do this? Do I have any more to give? You know, you might be wondering if you have the skill set, if you have the knowledge. So when I say competence, I guess I want to be clear to say that competence doesn't just include your personal skill or knowledge. It also includes your systems and your tools. Do you need to upgrade your systems? Do you need to get new tools in your tool belt? Whatever it is, in terms of having everything that you need to be able to move forward, is what I mean when I'm talking about your competence, building your competence. So to boost your talent by continuing to develop professionally and personally is really key, and it's really important. And sometimes that's difficult for small business owners, especially if you feel that your time is really limited. But when you're looking to take it up a notch and you're looking to actually execute the plan that you've put in place, you don't want it to fail because you've not taken the time to properly train yourself and make sure that you're up to par and up to the job. So take classes, conferences, seminars, workshops. And if you want to invest a little more, invest in coaching. Create systems that you can duplicate or are repeatable. And that might be one of the biggest parts about really building your competence, because oftentimes one of the biggest things that's lacking in executing our strategy is repeatable systems. So taking the time to research systems that are working for other people in your field or industry, taking the time to learn how the system can work. If you buy into a system and then you never take the time to figure out how it works, one, you're wasting your time, and 2, you're wasting your money. Especially, if the system costs money, you're wasting your money. So you want to make sure that you take the time to close that gap when you're creating those systems. Now, as you begin to take these classes, these conferences, these seminars, as you begin to learn about your technology, this boosts your confidence. I mean, all the way across the board, your confidence in your ability to make the updates and changes to your business just goes to the next level. So this is really going to help you with the support that you need, to have the support that you need from mentors and coaches in place all around you as you begin to step it up a notch. So number 3, again, is build your competence. Now, number 4, the fourth secret here is mind your business. I can't stress this enough. In your plans, I'm willing to bet that you have some targets, you have goals, and these are probably measurable. You know how many new clients you want, how much you want to increase your production by, what service you want to roll out, you know when you want to roll it out, how many sales you need to close. Like, you have these numbers in your plan and you know what this looks like and you've calculated it. These same measures somehow rarely make it into the execution phase. Somehow, once we start working on the business, we lose track of how many sales did I make? How close am I to my target? How many new clients did I acquire? How close am I to my target? Where did these new clients come from? Where did these sales come from? Is this method working? Is that method working? Is this not working? Should I cut this out? And because we're not focused in on those metrics after we've started the execution phase, then it's easy to get lost and it's easy to get unfocused. So you have to measure your results. To do this, you have to know your business and like every single aspect of your business. Who's buying, who's not, who's selling, what's selling, what's not selling. When are the sales high? When are they low? And not just for the year, But depending on your business, you need to know that for each month. Are there busier times of the month? Are there busier times of the week? If you have a retail business that's open every day, are there busier times of the day? This is going to allow you to make adjustments as needed, like on the spot, not down the line, not 3 months afterwards, not after you've had a slump in your sales. This helps you make the right adjustments up front. That way, if you must cut costs, you can cut them in the right areas and not across the board. If you have to make adjustments, you can make adjustments to the right areas and not across the board. So having these metrics and keeping them up to date is really important for you to make on the spot adjustments to really maximize and see your growth. So how do we create or keep these metrics? This is usually done by creating something called KPIs. If you are not familiar with KPIs, I encourage you to look them up. A KPI is a key performance indicator. This is real-time tracking of your business. And again, when looking to automate, I just want to throw out there that there are KPI systems that will help you automate your business metrics. You want your KPIs to be related to your business objectives and goals that you have in your plan and in your industry. So this might take a little research if you don't have this, but if you do have some of the, you should at least have metrics in your plan as to what your goals and your objectives are. If you don't have those in terms of what your industry standards look like, that might take a little bit of research, but look up the KPIs in your industry. You can pull the KPIs from your plan. And again, I would look for a system to automate. There are some systems that don't require you to automate. There are some ways you can track your KPIs, even on a simple spreadsheet in Excel. You can look up a template, but definitely what you want to do is make sure that you are tracking your business. Know your business numbers inside and out, and that way you can continue to make the proper adjustments. So the last secret here, secret number 5, is to create the change that you want. I'm going to use Starbucks here as an example. Like 10 years ago, did we ever view a coffee house as being what Starbucks is today? Like, when did we know that a coffee house was the place that we wanted to meet up and chill out or work? At that time, when Starbucks started to become really popular, or when Starbucks really started, coffee houses were to go and get some coffee. But Starbucks created a space that we didn't even know we wanted or needed. It created a space basically between work and home. So don't always look to follow the external changes, and definitely don't be a business that just responds to the market. Every time the market makes a move, then you respond. That keeps you always behind a step in the market. What you want to look for is let me rephrase that. What you want to do is going back to knowing who you are and your identity. You want to know who you want to be and what your value proposition is, and what areas do you need to grow in? What areas are you great in? And you can take these things and you can create the change that you want in your industry. And businesses that have learned to do this are businesses that have excelled in execution. So I will close on this. You wouldn't want to put in the time to plan if you didn't have goals and dreams that you want to see come into reality, right? So ask yourself, how many years have you gone by without seeing the results you want to see? And is this year going to be your year? Is this going to be your year to be clear in your priorities and to be sure to remove the distractions? Is this going to be your year to delegate what's needed and free yourself up to achieve what only you can achieve for your business? Is this going to be the year to grow your skills and tools in order to see the success you want? Will this be the year to focus on the important metrics in your business? One of my favorite sayings says, what you focus on will grow. Is this going to be the year that you're going to focus on the important metrics of your business? And is this going to be the year that you create the change that you want? So I thank everyone for joining this call. I'm going to open up the line for questions, and I hope that this information was valuable to you. I'm going to unmute the line now, and if you have a question for me on the material that I presented, please let me know. And before we close out, I just have a few other announcements, but I want to make sure that I answer any questions that might be questions, comments, anything that you might have to say before we close out the call. So I have unmuted the line if there is anyone that has a question.
So kind of, this is Jasmine. You mentioned different KPIs, and that's something that I kind of deal with. Are there specific sites that you use to get yours?
A
Like
site
to
that I
track them, I guess?
use KPIs for my particular industry or that I use to
Or
automate
in,
my KPIs?
well, I guess both.
So when I have my KPIs, I basically just did some Google searches based off of the coaching industry. But
Okay.
my KPIs are currently on an Excel spreadsheet, which is why I know they exist. But I am right now researching which of the automated KPI systems that I'm going to use for 2017 as I'm working to automate my business myself. So
Okay.
what I might do is I just wrote that down and I will look to see about putting out a blog about some KPI systems.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
That was it for me.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else that has a question?
Hi,
Comment?
guys. This is Latricia Lewis with Posh Events and Weddings. How are you this evening?
Good. How are you?
I
Thank
am
you for joining.
amazing. Thank you for asking. I just had a question in reference to point number 2 where it says assign responsibilities. When you are a single person running a business, when do you know if it's a good jump to kind of move from doing everything yourself to actually hiring someone to taking on that overhead?
Right. So I think that's a great question. So it definitely depends. So there's a lot of different factors in there. And so I don't want to say that there's any one tipping point. The main thing is, and especially in terms of hiring, but I think there are other ways that we can delegate some of the work out that doesn't always include hiring. So I always start, especially with home-based businesses or small family-run businesses, I always start with the family. Is there anyone in the family that can take on some of the smaller tasks that are often time consuming? Answering emails, or is there anyone who can take on social media? Is there anyone who can set appointments, things like that? But in the event or before you make the full switch over to hiring, also consider if you have systems in place that help automate some of the work that you have to do on a regular basis. Bookkeeping is an important one. A lot of times people want to do their own books. Having a bookkeeper do your books every quarter is a way to cut down on an accounting cost, but still remove that task off of your plate. So it really depends on what your tasks are that you have to accomplish in order for your business to run smoothly. But I would definitely encourage first to look close to home, and then 2, to look at systems that you can put in place first. And when your income from your business is beginning to take care of what you need at home and then some, then you can begin at opening up a budget for employees. Does that help?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Joyce, it's Asia. I chimed in late and I'm not in front of a PC. Is that list out there of your top 5 keys?
So it is not just yet, but I will have this in a blog. And then this is a recorded call, so it will be available for replay. And if you would like, I am just writing down your name, and I can tag you when I put out the replay, which is usually by Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Okay. So in closing, again, I just really want to thank everyone for joining tonight's call. January will be the next call. It will be January the 17th. It will be the same time. However, it will be a new number, but that information will be promoted before the call comes out. If this call was helpful, please tell another business owner